Hey, what's going on? This is John. Of course, Derek's in the room with me, and we had to jump on because it's a sad day today, Derek.
Yeah, Ozzy is left us. And what's funny about it is like you kind of felt like he was going to be like rolled out there till he was 90, playing music. Like Sharon was going to keep him going. Like I
Yeah,
didn't think that the streaming end a couple weeks ago was going to be it for Ozzy, but here we are. And it's not
yeah.
surprising,
Well, he
it,
was
it
not a young man, and I think we could safely say he didn't take the best care of himself over the years. He abused himself pretty regularly.
right.
Definitely led the rock and roll lifestyle, and it showed in his later years. But as you said, Ozzy just kept delivering and being around for so
Yeah.
long after we all kind of assumed maybe he wouldn't be, that you're right. I just kind of assumed it felt like Ozzy would always be here. And the fact that Ozzy has now left the building is kind of a shock. It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, I was at a park with my dog and kids, just enjoying a New England, day, and a cool one at that in the summer. And all of a sudden it just pops up on my phone. I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising that he went and did what he was supposed to do. He gave the world one last performance, and then it wouldn't surprise me if it comes out that he kind of gave up, maybe stopped taking his meds, maybe overdosed himself, who knows? Or maybe he just gave up. His body was he's just like, you know what? I'm done. If I'm not going to perform and I'm not
Yeah.
going to do what I'm meant to be doing on this planet, time to go.
Yeah.
Right?
You hear about that, your
Mhm.
grandparents, that it went that way with my grandparents. My grandmother passed away, and within a month and a half, my grandfather passed away. And you hear that they just, you can just kind of, I don't want to say give up, but realize that I've done what I needed to do, what I wanted to do. And I don't need to keep, who knows how much suffering and, pain Ozzy was dealing with. We know he was in bad shape. He was not walking much, if at all.
Wasn't no Parkinson's had robbed him of his ability to walk. So not great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that the possibility that Ozzy decided maybe it was time to go is a legitimate one. Whatever the case, we are fortunate to have been graced with the stuff, the music that he created and his persona for so long that, hey, it's a shame when you lose somebody that you dig, that you love, that you're into. But we're all on the clock, and
Well,
Ozzy'd been on the clock since 1948.
yep, 1948. And let's not sugarcoat it. Ozzy
No,
was no saint.
right.
Infidelity, tons of drugs. They talk about hookers in Tony Iommi and Geezer Butler's book.
Yeah.
He was not a saint by any stretch of the imagination. So let's not,
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about him as being this saintly figure.
No.
But there will not be another Ozzy Osbourne.
No.
And the reason why is media was consolidated when Black Sabbath came up. And you layer that on top of the fact that Black Sabbath, really Tony Iommi's riffs, but Ozzy's ability to sing over those riffs created heavy metal. There will not be another Ozzy Osbourne. And
Yeah.
for him to have a Black Sabbath career and then a solo career the way that he did and be able to evolve as, rock and roll and metal evolved is absolutely amazing. And again, there's so many different media avenues now that exist. There's the TikTok stars, there's people that go on Instagram, there's OnlyFans. I mean, it doesn't matter. There's different avenues where you can get famous.
Yeah.
But at the time when Black Sabbath came along to create heavy metal, but also to have consolidated media, it was Rolling Stone. You were on Rolling Stone, right? And you were on the radio. That was it. That was how you got famous. And so I think that the days of the rock stars, I think the days of mega talents that are paving new ways are over. I think that there are people out there creating great art and they're doing it in smaller channels, but it's not necessarily in this consolidated media world that was around in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Well, like you said, it was consolidated. You couldn't, if you wanted to hear something that came out, or moreover, you heard that Black Sabbath or whomever was releasing an album, you waited until a couple of weeks, a month before it hit the record stores, and maybe you'd hear one track on the radio if you were listening at the right time. And things were a lot more mysterious then. I was thinking, after I heard the news today, I was thinking about what period in my life, and consequently Ozzy's life, was the one that, you know, what is the time period that sticks with me? And for me, it was the mid to late 80s. That's the Ozzy that I always go to. You know, he was at the beginning, he started his solo career early 80s, and Blizzard of Oz with Randy Rhoads was, 86, I think, maybe. And that, you know, I was young enough. Sabbath was still a band when I was born in the early 70s. But my really musical maturity started happening in the early 80s. And that was the Ozzy that sticks with me, you know, dressed in yellow and black and Randy Rhoads with a polka dot flying V. What's the period? What's the Ozzy period that sticks and resonates with you?
Yeah, I was Slayer in 1984, changed my world. And, you know, obviously through exploration, you go to I went to Black Sabbath. And interestingly enough, my mom had this.
Excellent taste.
And, you know, their first record. And when I heard the song Black Sabbath with, you know, the church bells and Satan comes around the bend, I was like, oh, yeah. You know, Slayer's cool, but these are the godfathers of evil. And it blew my mind. And so I dug this out of, you know, in between Steely Dan and the Rolling Stones, and listened to that. And then I found Black Sabbath's Masters of Reality, which was also my mom's. And these are all the originals. They still play. But when I heard Children of the Grave, I was like, this has to be where Anthrax and Metallica, you know, and even if you think about Sepultura, where they got the idea of like these tribal drum beats, Children of the Grave had to be it, with Bill Ward, you know, with the drum beats, and it just blew my mind. And then obviously, you know, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Another one that I found in my mom's records. I saved these records. I saved all my mom's records. I ended up getting a hernia and had to have hernia operation saving Black Sabbath, because she was ready.
A worthy cause, right?
Yeah, she was ready to chuck them. And I kind of blame Ozzy for having a hernia operation, now having that mesh in there, and I probably should get it taken out, and I probably have a lawsuit. Who knows? But, you know, saving these 3 records along with some other stuff, including Steely Dan and the Rolling Stone and the Beatles and all that stuff, you kind of got to save it. Glad I did. You know, back to Ozzy, you know, these 3 were, you know, it. And then obviously, you know, number 4 and Sabotage. Black Sabbath for me was Ozzy. I did get to see Black Sabbath 2 times after 13, and then on their on the end tour. And obviously they tuned everything down to match Ozzy's voice because he couldn't hit the high notes anymore. But it was still really cool to be in the room with legends, the guys who created it all.
The OG, yeah. Well, it's a sad day if you like music, if you like heavy music at all, you're feeling it, but the darkness is coming for all of us, man, and it knocked on Ozzy's door today.
It sure did, and there's nothing you can do about it except and take this and I would like to think that Ozzy wouldn't want us all to be bummed out, right? And so what I did was I got in the car with the kids and the dog, and we blasted. You know, Crazy Train, Bark at the Moon. We played I played Symptoms of the Universe, which is really, to me, the beginning of thrash metal. And if you're going to listen to Ozzy and you're going to listen to Symptoms of the Universe, listen to the Past Lives record and Symptoms of the Universe, because it's raw, it's thrashy. Ozzy is fired up. Iommi is ripping. Geezer is rumbling along. And Bill Ward is a monster on the kit. And so I would say, listen to that. Give an ode to Ozzy. He would absolutely, I pretty confident he wouldn't want us bummed out. He'd want us to turn it up.
Agreed. Well, on that note, I am going to head back into the house and I'm going to crank some Sabbath and some Ozzy myself. So a tip of the cap to the OG.
Yeah, thank you, Ozzy, for everything. And we're gonna miss him, but he'll never die.
That's right. The music keeps going. All right, man. Be well.